Hello and welcome to my channel, Balkan Aesthetics. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the seed of Seth versus the seed of Cain. In one of my previous videos, I spoke about how there's only two types of people in this world, and this video is a supplement to that previous video, going more into the spiritual aspect of why that is. One thing that I've come to realize is that we need to read the apocryphal writings of God so that we can get a better understanding of how God thinks and how God works. And one of those apocryphal readings is called the Apocryphon of John. Now, it's a pretty complicated text if you don't have much of a background, but it's worthwhile to read into because it gives you a background into exactly how all this came about. So, the topic at hand today is talking about two, I wouldn't say bloodlines, but two spiritual lines of people. You have people that come from the seed of Seth, and you have the people that come from the seed of Cain. And if you read the Apocryphon of John, one thing that it makes evident is that these two types of people, right, the difference between them two is that one of them has the spark or the light of God, or a soul, you could say. That's the seed of Seth. And the other group of people does not have that spark of God, right? They are the seed of Cain. And as you all know, that Cain is the one who slew his brother Abel. He was the first murderer, right? And if you read the Apocryphon of John, it tells you that Eve gave birth to Cain under some questionable circumstances. I'm not going to tell you exactly what those circumstances were. You should go ahead and read the text for yourself, but they were questionable at best. And the seed of Cain does not have that spark of God, does not have the soul of God, whereas the seed of Seth does. And along with that soul, right, the seed of Seth also has what's called the epinoia. Epinoia is another word for foreknowledge, right? Another way you can describe it is the Holy Spirit. Now, the Holy Spirit is an all-encompassing spirit, right? There are many components to the Holy Spirit. And each person that has the Holy Spirit, right, that is from the seed of Seth, the line of Seth, right? Each person has a specific component of the Holy Spirit, whether it be wisdom or knowledge or faith or a combination of those, or even more types of spiritual gifts. So different people can have the Holy Spirit, just different aspects of the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is an all-encompassing spirit, if that makes sense. But going back to the main message at hand, the people that are of the seed of Seth, the line of Seth, the spiritual descendants of Seth, they're the ones who both have the soul, the spark of God, and they also have the Holy Spirit. Okay? Now that might be strange for some people to hear, because we're told that we're supposed to receive the Holy Spirit. We're supposed to be baptized by the Holy Spirit, or have the baptism of the Holy Spirit, right? But the one way I will counter this is by asking, why is it that there were certain people who knew that Jesus was the Messiah, and then were other groups of people who didn't know he was the Messiah? Why is it that there was a group of people, when Jesus said, I want you to eat my flesh and drink my blood, they didn't run away, right? Whereas another group that heard the same saying, they ran away. They thought, this guy's nuts, right? What makes the distinction between those two groups? Why is it that Peter was able to figure out that Jesus Christ was the Messiah, and Jesus told Peter that flesh and blood hasn't revealed these things to you, but the Spirit has, right? In my estimation, just by reading these texts, it's apparent to me that there are people who either have the Holy Spirit, they've always had the Holy Spirit, and there are people who just don't have the Holy Spirit, right? And one other thing that I've learned from the Apocrypha of John is that there's also something called the counterfeit spirit, right? An imitator. Actually, I shouldn't say imitator. I should say a shadow version of the Holy Spirit. It's called the counterfeit spirit. And that spirit is housed in our flesh. That's what the apostles, like Paul said, the flesh really is, right? The flesh is kind of like a storehouse for the counterfeit spirit. And people both from the line of Seth and the line of Cain, they both have the counterfeit spirit. But the difference between those two groups of people is that the line of Seth has the Holy Spirit, whereas the line of Cain doesn't. This is why there are people, when they hear about Jesus, they automatically understand what you're talking about and they want to know more, versus groups of people who, that you talk about Jesus, they don't want to hear about Jesus. They're just like, nah, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to hear about that, right? That's because one group has the Holy Spirit and the other group doesn't. So when you hear baptism of the Holy Spirit, what that's referring to is that the line of Seth, when they get baptized in the Holy Spirit, they are stripping off, right? They are taking off that counterfeit spirit, which is the flesh, which is, lust, greed, envy, gluttony, right? All those 7 deadly sins. The baptism of the Holy Spirit takes those attributes away. So when you take off those attributes, right, when you strip that counterfeit spirit off, now it allows the Holy Spirit within to fully shine, to fully manifest itself. And it makes sense, right? Because think about it. Baptism is you going in water, right? What does water do? Water cleanses you, right? Water gets the dirt off of you. So the baptism of the Holy Spirit is you shedding that counterfeit spirit of your flesh so that the Holy Spirit within you can manifest itself fully. So that's what differentiates the line of Seth from the line of Cain. The line of Seth has both the spark of God, the soul, and it also has the Holy Spirit already. That's why there are some people who understand Jesus right away and other people that are resistant to Jesus. And people that are resistant to Jesus, well, they come from the line of Cain. So that would fully explain why some people grasp the message of God and other people don't. So yeah, that's all I have for this video. I hope it makes sense. If you want to give it a like, go ahead. If you want to subscribe, that'd be great. If you want to leave a comment for any other future video you'd like me to do, I'd be happy to oblige. And as always, God gets the glory. See you in the next video. Bye.